Hello and welcome to WGTC Radio, the official podcast of entertainment website We Got This Covered. I'm Jonathan Lack.
And I am Sean Chapman.
And we are here to talk about Man of Steel, mostly.
Yes, mostly, yes.
Big movie, came out this week.
Yes, it did.
I liked it, Sean didn't.
Yep.
All right. So
that's the podcast over, I guess. There we go.
Yeah. All right. See you guys later. Outro music?
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's explain why you liked it and I didn't like it. But we've got some stuff first.
Yeah. And this is a bit of a historic first. Have we ever been this diametrically opposed on a movie? I mean, we have not talked about it yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, usually our viewpoints aren't 100% aligned. Like, one of us will like it a little bit more, or one of us will hate it a little bit more. But yeah, I think this is the first time where it's like, I really did not particularly care for this movie, and you really, really like it. So
I really do. So hopefully it'll be an interesting and good discussion.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think we can at least agree, it gives you a lot to talk about on whatever side you're on.
Yes. Yeah, there are some they make some interesting decisions in this movie.
I mean, it's very much an interpretation, and they, you can't fault them for just doing something bland and like Superman Returns and not going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say most of the movie's kind of bland, but we'll talk about that.
Okay. In any case, we'll get to that. We got a couple other little things to talk about just because they're significant. We wanted to mention them. So, Sean, you've been playing a cool game.
Yes, that might be a bit of an understatement. Yeah,
I have not played it. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. On Friday, The Last of Us came out, which is sort of like the big. I mean, other than Beyond Two Souls, that's coming out in October, is the last big PS3 exclusive, and so yeah, I picked it up. I was not intending to try to play it through really, really quickly. I was going to try to spend my time with it and stuff, but I ended up just beating it in 2 days, and that is a really, really, really good game. Like, one of the best games I've ever played. Like, it is seriously just absolutely phenomenal. I think everything about it is completely amazing, and I cannot recommend it enough. Like, I don't want to talk about it too much, but the story and characters are obviously something that Naughty Dog has always been really great about. But in particular, the way the gameplay, sort of this really aggressive stealth, survival gameplay, meshes with that story and really gets you invested and immersed into the character of Joel is so incredible and so far in a way, inverted from what they did with Uncharted, where it's you never felt like you were Nathan Drake, the dude in the cutscene when you're playing the game, and the game just offered you no choice. This is completely different, and it is easily one of the best games I've ever played, and definitely one of the best games of this generation, and sort of a really cool, sort of hey, this is how we're going out, dude. We're going out with The Last of Us, then Beyond Two Souls later this year looks really cool, and then Grand Theft Auto 5. But if either of those games top The Last of Us, I will be amazed, because I don't know how they even could. So,
if I take my PS3 home for a day or two or something, and I play through this game, do you want to talk about it in an upcoming episode?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Because I know we did BioShock Infinite earlier this year, and I think that was a really good episode.
I certainly think this game is worthy of a lot of discussion.
Okay, then we will definitely try to do that. No guarantees in the future, but in the future, if we can talk about this game, that sounds like it would be cool.
Yeah.
Because I'll just say on my end, I have been hearing it's amazing just how unified the praise for this game is.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about this game. One of the really fun things after I finished playing it is I went on and started looking at a lot of the reviews and stuff. And in particular, the Polygon review and the GameStop review are the only ones that aren't basically straight 10s, where Polygon's a 7.5 and GameSpot's an 8. And I was really curious because I'd heard about that. I'd seen those scores before I went in, and so I was curious what informed them. And so then when I went in after the fact and read those reviews, I looked at it and I was like, you guys do realize you wrote a review for a 10 game, but then gave it a low score. Particularly the Polygon review was the dude was so abhorred at the violence and just kind of how disgusting and grim the game is, that kind of felt in the review, that kind of felt that was a reason he gave it a really low score, where it's he would pause the game at points and just sit there because he couldn't take how violent the game was. And I was like, dude,
that's effective.
Yeah, that's a 10 fucking game. Holy shit, nothing else can get that kind of effect out of you, where it's and it is a dark, violent fucking game. And I can understand why you would if you were someone who doesn't handle violence particularly well, you might not want to pick up the game, because it is so fucking grim.
Yeah.
But,
and I mean, if that's the kind of thing that's not for you, it's understandable.
Yeah, it's not for you. But you should be able to recognize just how effective it is at making you feel really disgusting as a human being sometimes.
And again, that's something gaming can do that other art forms cannot.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
all right.
Last of Us.
Hopefully
awesome.
Hopefully we will do a longer episode on this either next week or the week after, sometime soon. You know, it's not like a 60-hour game, so I should be able to get through it pretty quick.
Oh, another thing, like, I wholly recommend playing the game on hard first time through, because a huge part of the game is sort of the survival aspect of your, like, constantly scrounging for supplies. And so I played it on hard my first time through, and I thought that was sort of a perfect balance of you never have quite enough of what you need, so you're, like, constantly need to improvise. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend playing it on hard.
Doesn't make it, like, frustrating in the wrong ways?
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay. Well, cool. That's Last of Us. I want to talk about something really quick. I saw, my review will be up tomorrow or the next day. Last night I saw Monsters University, and normally I would not go to the lengths of mentioning this as a segment on the podcast, but we have made fun of this movie several times on the podcast, and I think I even said when we did our like summer movie preview and we mentioned this because again it sounds dumb.
Yes, it does.
It's a prequel to a movie that did not need a prequel in a college setting, which is really it doesn't work when you do that for kids. Like I think that's what I'm saying in my review is that like if you list off all the things it does on the surface, they all seem like those are dumb ideas.
Yeah.
But I think I said when we made fun of it last time that again, if it is good, I want to mention that on the podcast and be fair to the movie. Because, you know, I've piled on Pixar enough the last couple years because they made Cars 2 and Brave. And Monsters University is kind of great. It is really, really good. And if you are someone who has become a little disillusioned with Pixar, being kind of sad that since Toy Story 3 they've done 2 just sort of lazy, generic movies that don't really feel like the company.
Yeah.
Monsters University is not, it's not in their upper tier of like the best movies they've ever made. But it's a really good movie, and more than anything else, it feels like a Pixar movie. And by that I mean everything in the movie, all the humor and the plot points and the setting, all stems from a very basic story and theme about sort of the nature of that period in your life, which is the period a lot of people go to college, where you kind of learn that the world is just not fair, and that you can fail, and how you pick yourself up back after failure, and what a second chance means. It's actually dealing with some pretty heavy material, and that's Pixar. That's Pixar, doing that in a really funny and fun context, but where everything is built around those major themes. And it's like, the number one thing I was not expecting this movie to do was justify taking the monsters characters to college.
Yeah.
And yet, college is the perfect place to set the specific story they are telling. And well, you know, no, they can't depict drinking or drugs or sex or experimentation in those ways or something. It doesn't feel sanitized, quote unquote, because the sort of emotional state they're portraying is very honest and it feels proper to the setting. The movie is also ridiculously funny, very well animated and stuff. So you know, if you've got kids, if great family movie, but even if you were a fan of Monsters Inc. back in the day, or you just want to see Pixar make another good movie, I would not necessarily say this is a great movie, but boy, does it have some good stuff in it. And there's the last couple scenes are some of the best stuff Pixar's ever done. So I'm eating my words on that. I don't necessarily feel bad for making fun of this movie beforehand because it sounded really dumb.
Yeah,
and
still sounds really dumb.
And their marketing was awful, and I wish they were able to hint at what the movie actually is in their marketing more, because I'm really curious to see how this movie will do, because I know I'm not the only one who felt apathetic.
I mean, I have a question for you. Do you think that the movie needed to have been set in the Monsters Inc. universe? Yes, because it plays. It actually, this is another thing I read about in my review. It plays on our being a prequel is important to it. Okay. Like Mike, you know, if in the original movie, Sully, the John Goodman character, was sort of our main character, and this time it's Mike, and it's about sort of his story. And because we know where Mike eventually ends up at the start of Monsters Inc., we know his station in life, we know his relationship with Sully. Yeah. It's able to say more with less. Okay. I would say, and seeing these characters' relationship grow over the course of the movie is not something I thought I needed, but is surprisingly well done. And they are not super callback to the original. Like, they don't just ham-fist characters in there who wouldn't fit in the continuity. So that's really nice. Okay. So anyway, that's that. Monsters University, great for your kids. Man of Steel, not so much. That's my transition. Sure. Okay. That was a Last of Us, terrible. Oh my God! Stay away. Keep your children away from that game. Monsters University. Okay.
Yeah.
Man of Steel. Well,
Probably. I mean, maybe if they're
your
like,
discretion may be advised.
maybe if they're 7, 8, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Don't take a baby to the theater like you did at my screening.
Oh, did someone really do that?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. In fact, it was really weird because the baby. Like, I wouldn't say the baby was crying, but the baby was making noise at one part of the movie, but it wasn't really loud. And for a second, because it was, like, doing stuff, whereas, like, when Jonathan Kent was talking to, like, young Clark, I was like, is that part of the movie sound? Is there some, like, really weird, like, avant-garde, like, thing with, like, trying to, like, put this weird symbolism of, like, a baby kind of weirdly crying in the soundtrack? I was like, oh, wait, no, that's just an actual baby.
Yeah. All right.
It actually would have been great if they had put that in the soundtrack. So I'm like, what the? Zack Snyder got really weird.
I mean, there's some avant-garde aesthetics in this.
They make some weird choices, but like
We'll
nothing
talk about that.
quite that far of
Okay.
like putting this weird like baby like subtle thing in the background of the soundtrack. But yeah,
All right, so let's talk about Man of Steel. We'll get to overall thoughts in just a second. Want to give our normal warning. If you have not seen Man of Steel, go see it for yourself. Don't listen to this first. We're going to spoil the shit out of it.
Krypton blows up.
Okay,
There we go.
there's that. Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. You got your spoiler warning already. So there we go.
Okay.
Krypton blows the fuck up.
As it is wont to do.
Yeah. And Clark Kent is found as a baby by Jonathan and Martha Kent.
Yes.
Just spoiling everything.
All right, Man of
Eventually, he's going to get his ass kicked by Doomsday, and Superman's going to die. So there we go. I'm spoiling things that haven't even happened yet.
All right, Man of
And he's
Steel.
going to grow a mullet, and it's going to be dumb.
Are we ever going to talk about the movie?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Man of Steel. Sean, give me your overall thoughts on this film.
I know I don't like it. I'm not entirely sure how much I don't like it. Like thinking about the movie afterwards, but I definitely did not enjoy it while I was watching it. At a certain point, I think the characterization feels really bland in a lot of places. Like I don't think they have a very interesting version of Clark Kent, or they portray like an interesting version of Clark Kent. I don't think the dynamic they try to build up of like a weird sort of nature nurture like Kryptonian human thing, I don't think that duality like works because they don't go far enough with it. I really like Zod. I thought the action was really well done, but there was way too much action, and the pacing of the movie was really poor in the sense of like the last act, which is like felt like the last 90 minutes of the movie. It might not have been that long. It was just like straight action scenes to the end, to a really weird ending. And so, yeah, I thought it was kind of bland. The characterization wasn't funny. The movie was incredibly self-serious. And the action, while good, there was way too much of it. So, there.
And again, in a first for WGTC Radio,
Yeah.
I disagree with every point you just made.
Yeah.
So we're going to fight. No, I love Man of Steel.
I'm going to win.
I love Man of Steel. I really do love this movie. I think I said in my review, to me it feels different than any blockbuster, at least, that I have seen before. I think it does, and especially any Superman movie I've seen before. And I really think it gives us something new on many levels, while also telling a version of this character I found myself very invested in, a version of the universe I found myself very invested in, and more than anything else, I thought it was thematically and narratively super tight. I really thought the narrative that they chose to tell and how they chose to do character development within it and connect character and theme and story together worked fantastically for me. I think just to me, every moment of this movie builds so flawlessly throughout to an understanding of the characters and the emotional state, up to what I think is some really fantastic material at the end. And it hit me really hard. And I will say up front, I want to say one of the things about this movie that hit me is I think it is a great story about fathers and sons, and about that period in your life when you are growing up and maybe you've lost people and you are figuring out how you are going to move forward in life and sort of subsume the lessons of your past and find a way to honor the people who meant something to you, or the things they taught you that meant something to you, in a way that will make you a stronger person in the future. I think it has, like the best superhero movies for me, it's big in scale, but it's got a very intimate human touchstone to it. And as a lot of our listeners know, I lost my father a couple months ago, or about 6 months ago now. And I think, again, as a story about fathers and sons and some of the choices they make there, That is the strongest part of the movie to me, and I think it's fantastic how much all the characterization, character development, and themes stem from some very basic ideas into some very big explorations of these ideas.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I think the movie is way, 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 way more about General Zod and Jor-El, and to a lesser extent Jonathan Kent, than it is about Superman in any place. Like,
I don't think that, but
I mean, it is certain. I mean, the primary struggle in the entire movie is like a sort of more intellectual one between Jor-El and Zod, like, and Superman is just sort of there as almost kind of like a pawn. I
see
act out their like mechanisms.
I don't think that at all. I mean, I think they do. I think this is the phrase I used in my review. I think they keep Superman and Clark Kent. I mean, this was one thing I had difficulty with writing my review. I always wanted to call him Clark when writing my review.
I think he's Kal-El in this movie.
Okay.
There's no Clark Kent in this fucking movie.
It's just I'm not saying it as an identity thing.
Yeah.
That's just what I was thinking in my head. But in any case, what point were we on? You about Jor-El and Zod?
Yeah.
I think, to me, I think they keep Clark's Superman Kal-El at a certain distance from us because he is, you can't have him so direct in the way you have some other superheroes. Because
I think you can. I don't think that's true at all.
But I thought the slight distance they keep us from and the structure of the second act of the film. I mean, it's hard to say which act is which, but
Yeah.
the once we leave Krypton to the point where Zod invades Earth, there's about an hour there.
Yeah.
And then the last act, the action stuff, is about 45 minutes. I've seen it twice. I actually timed some of this stuff the second time through just because I knew that was probably something that would come up.
Yeah.
So we knew what the time delineations were. And in any case, I think, I think the structure of that second act and seeing Clark move through the world, very wandering, very lost, and kind of thinking of his past and these different issues and trying to figure out a way to live with them and coming to this point where, and I think the whole arc of the movie for him, and this is why I think it's about Clark, the whole arc of the film is, I don't think it's as much a dialogue between Jor-El and Zod as it is between Jor-El and Jonathan Kent, and him and Clark coming to believe for much of his life that his two fathers taught him something that is diametrically opposed, that he cannot take these two teachings, the idea that he can be an idol to Earth, an idea that Earth might not be ready for him, and he has to know the right moment to come out and be a hero, and try to find a way to make both of those into one and become stronger for it. And
but they're not diametrically opposed, like, because Jonathan Kent was prepping his son just to be Superman, or theoretically he was, they never really showed it.
But that's the point, is that I do understand Clark's emotional state where he thinks he doesn't know how to be both of those things.
I didn't get any, I don't think they, show that in Clark Kent at all, because he's, this is one of my problems with the movie is that when he's just wandering around, I never got a good sense of why he felt he was compelled to just wander around the place, other than he always ends up saving people, and then he can't let people find out what he is, because humanity's not ready, because that's just what Jonathan Kent told him in every single flashback, so then he moves on to another place. It never felt like a, what am I, what are these powers, should I use these to help people? It never felt like he had any struggle with that at all. He was just oh, well, shit, I guess I gotta move on to another town now.
I got that. I thought it was when we see through the flashbacks, especially. I think one of the most important ones here is the one with his mother in the school, and obviously he's learned to master his powers much more over time. But I think he was fine.
It's he can disguise himself really easily. He's 33 years old, for fuck's sake. In this movie, when he's wandering around, he's 33 years old. That's. It didn't feel like he was at this age where it's I need to find out who I am. There was no, thing that set him off wandering. He's just, kind of wandering around. It's this isn't he just comes home and it's hey, Mom, I'm back. Whatever. I was just taking odd jobs around the place.
I assumed it was Jonathan Kent's death that set him off, and then he goes around, because that's the last significant flashback we see.
It could be, but it doesn't feel like you never... This is, one of my problems with, that structure of the movie, is that you never see, the impact really on those characters, because they're all, flashback, so you could say it's okay, well, Jonathan Kent dying is what prompted him to just leave, but you don't know, you don't see him try to make that decision or anything. It's just okay, well, yeah, Jonathan Kent died, and then now, how old was he when Jonathan Kent died? How long ago was that? It looks like he was an adult, but, was he, 30 years old? I don't know.
Yeah. And I see where you're coming from on this. I guess it's just an issue of taste in the structure of the film and whether or not it, you get something out of it. And I guess I felt I did from that structure. And I also, I guess I want to ask you this because I'm curious. And again, we have really not talked about the movie yet. So usually we prep a little more. But it's also sometimes our podcasts are better if we just go right into it.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Henry Cavill as Clark/Superman? Because
I thought he was really bland. Like, I mean,
Okay.
I thought he was good. His accent slipped a few times, and I thought that was kind of funny. So he's just like, I just like the idea of a British Superman. But I thought, and I don't think it's his fault, but I don't feel like there was any, like, I just thought their version of Clark Kent was just so non-characterized and so bland that it was like, okay, like, he's fine. Like, I think he would be really good if they gave him better material.
Okay, and I really like Henry Cavill, and I thought he conveyed a lot in scenes where I think I think part of the balance was just reading his physicality and the way he moves through the world. And I think that's what I said when I wrote about the movie, is that I think I actually like a lot of the vocal choices he makes in portraying how Superman would speak in various situations. And he's British and his accent slips a little bit, but it's not a bit. It's not like Christian Bale where he goes into a really gruff, like over the top voice to hide it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's and I thought, but the physicality is really what he's focusing on in the role, and kind of portraying this sort of, I don't want to say alien way of motion because it's not that overt, but it is something where he is uncomfortable in some ways, but then you also see the moments where he is totally a comfort and sort of discovering the limits of his power, but also the limits of just again how he moves through the world. And I thought he did a lot of that well. And and if we're talking about the characterization of Clark, it's something where I really do feel, because of the structure, and I think the way they choose to dole out the flashbacks and the story material that happens in between, and the way it's paced, I thought I did get a good feeling for this character. I think a lot of it is rooted in that I did like Henry Cavill, and I thought I got a lot out of just observing his performance. I think I got even more out of it for me the second time watching the movie and going through that and seeing these things again, and having some of these initial thoughts confirmed watching it a second time. I really like. I know this is the part of the movie you seem to like least, but I really do like that.
I like the last act the least. The action, I thought I was just bored at the last act of the movie. At a certain point, I was just like, oh god, can we wrap this thing up? Like, there's so much action at the end of this movie. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Well, yeah, but anyway, the second hour of the movie...
This was the best part of the whole movie. I will say that. This was my favorite part of the entire movie.
Okay.
Other than some stuff that Zod does. Those are my favorite. My favorite part of the whole movie is when Zod, learns how to fly. That is out of the entire movie, that is the best fucking part by far. That part's awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do you want to go next with this? I said, and I think... it's worth... I mentioned some little avant-garde things. I also think I really, really like, from a film technical construction aspect, how the second act of the film, all of Clark's... basically the material from when we first meet adult Clark to when Zod invades Earth. I think the cinematography is fantastic.
It is really, really well shot. I'm not going to try to knock the movie down for that.
Yeah, I think Zack Snyder has always had an interesting aesthetic, and I think this is the absolute best employment of that. He really feels like, to me, as a filmmaker, comes into his own. At least on that side, whether or not you agree with the story decisions and stuff. And I think the way they choose to shoot the flashbacks in particular, and doing it in a very sort of Terrence Malick style, there is some kind of avant-garde kind of things they do in honing in on little details like a fence, and there's some grass and these things that show us sort of this idea of memory, and then the way they contrast that with how they shoot sort of the, I guess, present day material, if you want to call it that. And going back and forth between that, I think it creates a very introspective state, especially when you combine it with Hans Zimmer's music, which is just stupendous. And I really like, and I think I really like the way the movie builds. I feel like each emotional beat builds off the last one, and I have a greater understanding of the characters at each moment in the film, building up to the next. So,
yeah, it is.
Okay. Let's backtrack. I want to ask something, because we completely skipped this part of the movie.
Okay, the Krypton part.
It does open on Krypton, and that's a pretty significant part of the movie.
Yeah, it's like you timed it. How long was it? It felt like it was 15 or 30 minutes. It felt forever.
Oh, it's at least 20 minutes. Okay, I think. Yeah. I mean, they're laying a lot of stuff down there.
It's a long. They spent way too long on Krypton. I never like it when Superman stuff focuses on Krypton, so I should say that right off. But I don't think they did a interesting Krypton thing. I don't know.
Okay, I think Krypton was very interesting. I thought, from a production design aspect,
I guess it looked nice. Although, I think they maybe went a little too over the top in trying to build this alien civilization at some points, where it's everyone's wearing funny hats and weird armor, and then people have flying cars, but Jor-El's just I have a dragon monster that it's when the fuck What is that? Why are you riding a dragon monster when everyone else is riding space cars with like lasers, Jarrell?
Well, I personally thought the Krypton material was well. I mean, there is the explanation that the monster might be a little more reliable than a ship in that situation. If he's trying to, I don't know, smaller.
The monster's dumb. Like, it's just there because it's like, hey, CGI monster. Yeah, I thought it was like, what the fuck is... Like, most of Krypton, I was just like, what the fuck is... Why does everyone just speak in cliche on Krypton? Is that, like, your, like, normal ritual? You just walk around speaking cliches to each other? Like...
What cliches?
The best one was when Zod and Jor-El first talk to each other, like, when they're in the, like, council room, and it's like, what is going on here? This is madness! And it's like... I forget, like, it ends with, like, the best cliche is that it ends with, and it's like, and who is going to determine, like, the proper bloodlines or whatever? You? Like, how many times have you heard, like, that, like, maybe, like, not specifically the bloodline thing, but, like, that framed of, like, who is going to lead them? You? Like, that's in everything.
I've heard it before, but I think the dialogue...
Like, most of the dialogue on Krypton was... Because they, like, have this really affected, like, over-the-top way of speaking on Krypton... Of like it like ended up like about like half the dialogue was like these really cliche style lines.
And I thought the dialogue was more graceful than that. I actually was more impressed with the dialogue in this than I expected to be because I didn't.
I thought most of the dialogue was really not anything to talk about. I guess like it's
okay.
Like there it was really funny, and then there are some really funny like really terrible lines later. But
like, yeah, I mean there's a line or two here or there I would nitpick and take out. We'll get to those later on. But actually,
they say it goes downhill after the first kiss.
Only when you're kissing humans?
That is so bad. Did like George Lucas come on set? Were they like, hey George, we've got a romantic scene. Can you write this? Because that was terrible. Oh my god, that line was awful.
Not the best line in the movie. It didn't necessarily bother me.
It was so bad. Oh man.
There are other lines.
Fucking hilarious.
The only major problem I had that's that line is that I didn't feel it tracked with Clark as we knew him at that point.
I mean, the whole like Lois Lane relationship was so underdeveloped that I was like, why are you guys you've met each other twice? Like, why are you making out? What is this?
I got that, and we'll talk about that later. We're still on Krypton. Yeah. Let's not get too crazy here.
Okay.
All right. So Krypton, again, I thought the dialogue in this part was more graceful. I very much liked the Kryptonian opening. I actually thought when you combine it with I really felt like from a production design standpoint and cinematography and effects, it really felt like a fully realized alien civilization. Like I felt like we were coming in, and the movie at least had a very clear understanding of what this civilization was, and we were being dropped into the middle of it. And I kind of liked how they pitched it, where it felt like the beginning scenes in the movie were like the end of another saga.
Yeah, it felt like it was like, did they just load up a different weird sci-fi movie? Yeah.
Well, and I thought that worked because I think that's kind of one of the thematic points they're making with Superman in the film is that he's coming into something that sort of pre-exists, and he's the one who has to inherit these issues and ultimately overcome them. And you know this issue of this dying civilization. I thought it was interesting that they pitched Krypton as something that is very much this civilization has had its moment, and we very clearly see how much it has deteriorated. And
they're very Time Lordy.
They are, yeah. That's actually a really good. It feels like some of the stuff in the End of Time two-parter with David Tennant, where we see the Time Lord played by
Rassilon.
Yeah, Rassilon played.
Timothy Dalton.
I love Timothy Dalton. Why couldn't I think of his name? Timothy Dalton's awesome.
I don't know why you couldn't think of Rassilon.
Okay.
Like, the Time Lord played, but it's fucking Rassilon, dude.
Okay, I have not seen it as much as Doctor Who as you have.
It's Rassilon.
Oh, all right. Maybe this summer we'll watch a serial with Rassilon in it.
Sure.
Okay. If we ever get around to actually doing that. In any case, what fucking point was I on?
I don't know, something about Rassilon.
No, okay, anyway.
It wasn't your point, it was my point that it was very Time Lordy, and then you started talking about
and my point was I felt like, we were watching this civilization die, and it was very clear, we did not, I think it's interesting how it lays out a lot of things that are going to be built upon later, like the Codex idea, and some of the stuff with Zod.
I love that, like, they have this creepy, like, half-broken black baby skull that they just encoded all the potential future... I don't even really know what that deal was. It's like, we're putting all our genetic shit in this creepy little... Like, what is it? Like, why did you...
It's alien.
No! Just because you're Kryptonian, like, it wasn't like all of their stuff was like this creepy biological bullshit. It's like, why was this like super important artifact?
I think they had a lot of creepy biological bullshit, like breeding all their babies in these tanks, like the
yeah,
Matrix.
no, but I'm saying their technology wasn't like
Okay.
organic based, is what I'm saying. So it's like, why is this one thing? Why is your bullshit DNA thing that doesn't make any sense encoded onto this broken black baby skull? Like, what the fuck is that? You are some fucked up people. Like, who sat around and was like, we could just make it like a canister, or we could make it this baby skull that's like broken. It's like, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I liked the Krypton material, and I think it sets up some of the major themes of the movie very well, and gets the plot underway. And I think when I said earlier the movie was tight, I really specifically comparing it to the 1978 Superman movie, where the Richard Donner film, which is a very good film, and I don't want to take anything away from it.
Better movie than this one.
I disagree, but
I disagree with your disagreeing.
Okay, I get that, Sean. When I say disagree, it's understood that you don't agree with it.
I want to make it fucking clear. I really disagree with that.
Okay. Anyway, that movie...
Better Superman, at least.
Okay. That movie is very much delineated where it feels kind of like three different movies. We have the film on Krypton.
I mean, that is its biggest problem is definitely like the Lex Luthor shit at the end.
Well, it's just structurally what I was going to say is the first act is on Krypton, has nothing to do with what comes next except that Superman is going to be sent to Earth. There's some stuff with Zod in the Phantom Zone in that movie, but that doesn't matter until 2, and then in the
They don't spend a whole lot, as I recall, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but they don't spend a lot of time on Krypton, right? Like,
it's about 15, 20 minutes. I mean, it's... The pace of that, I think the difference is that they pack an awful lot of material into the Man of Steel Krypton opening. Mm-hmm. The opening in Superman the movie is much slower paced, less literally happens, but they spend more time with all of it, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's a chunk of the movie. I mean, it was enough for Marlon Brando to, to have enough screen time that he is,
But he's also Memory Crystal Jor-El, so...
Yeah. No, but anyway, and then the second, the sort of second movie within Superman the movie is Clark growing up, going to the Fortress of Solitude.
Really good part.
That's the best.
Lane.
Yeah, that's the best part of the movie. And then once Lex Luthor comes in, it's about Lex Luthor, and the Lex Luthor stuff has nothing to do with anything else in the movie. True. So it's kind of unconnected in that way. But I liked in Man of Steel that we set up a lot of stories right off the bat in Krypton, or not a lot of stories, the story on Krypton, and the major themes, and then that's what carries through. It is the ramifications of what happens in that first scene that pay off in later portions of the movie. So I'm very satisfied with that as a structural thing. It does not feel like, this is 3 different movies to me.
Yeah.
In that sense.
To me, I just felt like, I mean, it obviously was important to have Krypton stuff there since General Zod is going to be the villain of the movie, but I still think they spent way too long on Krypton, and then it didn't feel, what they did spend on Krypton just was not particularly interesting to me. Like, it was... Again, like a lot of like shaky cam CGI action, and it was like I don't have a good grasp of what is going on here. Like, I also like, were you able to figure out, did the Kryptonian Council believe Jor-El that the planet was going to blow up or not? Like, I couldn't get.
No, they didn't.
Like, it kind of felt like they weren't. Like, immediately, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, the planets, even though like the planet is clearly blowing up because there's like fucking geysers of shit and like everything is getting destroyed.
Well, later on, I don't know in that first scene if that's what
it seemed like the planet was getting destroyed. Like, the whole planet was just like... But
I think they knew the planet was, not in all that great shape, but I don't think they thought its destruction was impending. And I think it's very clear they don't believe this and they don't want to do anything about it, because that's the entire basis of Zod's attack, is that he wants to kill these fuckers, take
Which
over.
is why it seemed weird that I didn't get a good sense from the council, that, like, they weren't, like, like, Jor-El, get out of here, like, you're crazy. Like, that's how it's usually been treated, is like, Jor-El, you're crazy. Like, no, the planet's not going to fucking blow up. You're a maniac. Like, they treat him like Galileo or something. It's like, no, like, get the fuck out of here. We're discommunicating you from Krypton Church. It's like, like, it's... And in here, it's kind of just like, whatever, Jor-El. I also like that Jor-El is supposed to be a geologist. Like, that's why he knows that Krypton's going to blow up. But then apparently Jor-El is just like makes everything because he like invented the Phantom Zone stuff and like
they say he was
turned
our
the
chief
Phantom Zone
scientist.
into the Warp Drive. What I'm saying is that this isn't a big deal with the movie, but it's something that I like in movies annoys me, where you have scientists. It's like, if you're a geologist, you're not also the dude making a fucking warp drive.
I don't think they ever call him a geologist in the movie.
But he is and if he's the dude making the warp drive, then he wouldn't know the shit about the planet blowing up, is what I'm saying. He's not going to be an expert in every field of science.
He could have whole teams. If he's overseeing all Kryptonian science...
You're making assumptions.
I think you're making assumptions.
I know.
We are both
I'm
making
looking
assumptions.
at the movie of like what they say he knows and what he does is really broad and far-reaching when he's supposed to just be a geologist.
All right. Well, in any case, so yeah, I mean that's the whole conflict there with the council and Zod's attack plan. We get a sense that Zod and Jor-El were maybe once friends.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. I liked actually. I mean, Michael Shannon is so good, so fast, portraying Zod and getting us a sense of that he really cares about what he's doing and he's not doing it because he wants to take over the world or anything. It's as much as I love Terrence Stamp, Kneel Before Zod. His motivation is he just wants to rule some shit.
Yeah.
And this is Zod has an emotional drive, and I like that. And I guess I wanted to ask you next. One of the big there is precedent, as I understand this, in certain runs of Superman. I read an interview with David S. Goyer, but this is different for the movies and televised material, at least, having the Kryptonians be genetically bred.
That is what I'm familiar with, like from the comics, like with the Man of Steel, like the John Byrne one. They kind of
that's the one that David S. Goyer.
Yeah. So it's like there they don't focus on you'd spend like 2 pages on Krypton, like it's not a big deal. But yeah, sure.
Well, that's something that comes up more later on in the movie. We don't know a whole lot about the genetic.
Again, it's also, and this is like non-canonical, but it's also very Time Lordy, where it's like Kryptonians are like weaved in the loom.
Is that really?
That's long borrow. That's the thing.
Okay.
Every conversation, motherfucker.
Every conversation comes back to Doctor Who.
Well, this one very specifically, it feels like you guys. Some of this stuff is really specifically reminding me a lot of Time Lord stuff, but even your funny fucking hats.
Well, anyway, yeah. So, and actually, that's an idea I liked, and I think it specifically, works for General Zod, and a contrast between him and Superman being a natural birth. And this idea of choice, and sort of that's a theme that goes throughout the movie.
Which is what I thought was, so like, on Krypton, do people just not fuck? Because it didn't seem like it was like a particularly like it was the only natural birth because it's like women can't conceive anymore. It was just like, we just don't really fuck anymore. Like, we just let this Matrix thing take care of it for us.
Yeah. I mean, that could be, but if they're genetically, bred, that you could get rid of that sex drive or something, and then you could, this is a common thing in science fiction. You have something like that can be removed over time as genetics go on and on. That's THX 1138, for instance.
Sure, but still.
Yeah.
So Jor-El was just like, he's just like, that did not get fucked up for him somehow. It's just like magical, like him and Laura.
Or he and Laura, came to an ideological conclusion that they wanted to do this. That's what I felt we were getting out of it, was that they probably didn't have like a hugely like lustful relationship together. It was more of an intellectual one where they had ideological similarities about the future of Krypton and the kind of thing where they're probably talking about things they shouldn't be talking about, and then they make a baby.
Sure.
All right, but anyway, Zod. I think having the idea of the genetic manipulation works very well for Zod and his motivation, because you get a very by the time he makes his big speech to Superman near the end. About, I guess that's their last huge dialogue exchange.
Yeah.
Well, no, when he's got him in the headlock, they have a dialogue exchange.
Yeah.
But before that, he has the big speech about, you've destroyed my people, you've taken my soul, this is all I have.
You've committed genocide, Superman.
Again, committed genocide is...
He killed the rest of the Kryptonians! That's fucking genocide! We'll get onto that.
Let's go into it. You just peaked all our audio levels.
Yes, I did.
think you want to talk about this.
Superman killed the rest of the Kryptonians. He committed genocide. In your first fucking Superman movie. This is a shitty, terrible thing. He should hang up the goddamn cape already. Like, he's coming out of the gate. He's not doing too hot. Man!
I'm really curious for you to tell us what you think he should have done in this situation where there's like
you don't blow up the Kryptonian ship because there's quite a few Kryptonians on there. Like, you don't just immediately destroy that. You keep that intact for the Phantom Zone. And the biggest one, where this is I've read interviews with David S. Goyer talking about this, where he's like, well, what we wanted to do was have this Kobayashi Maru thing where it's he had no choice but to kill Zod. It's no, he couldn't. Superman can fly. All he had to do, you have him in the headlock, he starts doing the James Bond laser thing, fucking fly! Fucking fly away, Superman!
And then he and Zod destroy more buildings and kill more
Fly him out of the city! He shouldn't have been fighting them in the city in the first place! He's a terrible, terrible Superman! Oh my god, he killed hundreds of thousands of people, caused trillions of dollars in property damage, injured millions, caused like the worst fucking disaster in the history of America. Like,
now wait, how did
the
Superman
world.
cause that?
Because he could have got them out of the city. He's the one who, like, hit them into the city and started fucking throwing cars and, kicking them through goddamn skyscrapers. He's a terrible Superman. He would at least have been responsible of a couple of thousands of those deaths just directly for destroying buildings. He's a shitty fucking Superman. Like, fly them to the goddamn moon and fight them up there. For fuck's sake.
So you're assuming in this that Zod has no control over the fight. Zod has no control over the direction
Zod's only
of the
interested in fighting Kal-El. Like, he doesn't give a shit about killing the humans until the very, very end. Like, they're all just trying to kick his ass. So just fucking leave. It's like Dragon Ball Z, you know? Goku, is like, hey, androids, let's get out of the city. And they're like, sure, because we only want to fight you. There you go, done. Go to a, nondescript Rocky Mountain location. Solved it.
I don't think
he's a terrible Superman.
This is a point I've heard a lot, and I very strongly disagree with it. I don't think that's what we're seeing in the text of the movie, that Superman has that level of control over what's going on.
Then I don't have any interest in seeing this dumb, useless fucking Superman, I guess. Like, I don't care, okay, you're not smart enough or capable enough to try to lure them out of the city. Well, then great. Like, who gives a shit about you? You're a terrible Superman.
Okay,
leave.
There's a lot of them.
Just
They have their giant, terraforming engine in Metropolis. When he starts fighting Zod at the end, they're in Metropolis because that's where the fucking thing was that Zod directly was destroying things, and then
he blew it up, and then he just has to fight Zod.
And Zod instigates that fight, and I actually looked for this very closely my second time through because I'd heard this complaint so much. In that fight, I think there's one time Superman does anything of his own volition to a building, and it's the empty building that's under construction.
He's constantly kicking people through buildings and punching them through buildings. Like, that happens, all throughout the fight.
He gets punched through a lot of buildings. Actually, taking Zod and throwing him through a building, he drags Zod along a building a couple of times. But that doesn't, destroy the foundations of the building and make it fall. Anything that level of destruction is something Zod does, and I think if you look at that last scene, the whole point to me of the last fight in the movie with him and Zod is showing an escalation and making it horrifying, and Superman having so much trouble keeping Zod under control to the point where he has no other choice but to just end it, because if he doesn't, Zod's going to kill a lot more people, as Zod said he fucking would, and showed he was capable of multiple times throughout the fight.
No, Superman, they tried to construct the situation, but you shouldn't. I mean, I don't even think you should try to construct the situation. It's a philosophical thing I have with Superman, but Superman could find a way. Superman always has to find a way. People bring up a Superman number 22 or whatever post-crisis where he does kill Zod, Feora, and Quetzal or whatever in an alternate universe. People have been Superman has killed in the past once, and that was also with 3 people who in an alternate universe completely wiped out the entire human race. So it's they killed 5 billion people, so it's there's a little bit more justification there of they have already and they were threatening to go do it to his world. But even then, one instance of that happening doesn't mean it should be a thing for the character, I guess.
Can I just ask you something?
Sure.
Because I think this is an important thing for us to lay down. I guess I want to know what is sort of your interpretation reading of Superman, not in this movie, but as a character, and how do you like to see him portrayed? Because I think
he's an ideal.
Okay.
He always finds a way because that's what Superman does. He is an ideal. He represents that ideal. He represents hope. He represents something that we can aspire and strive to be because he can always find a way because he's fucking Superman. That's what Superman is. That's what he represents. Superman is the superhero. And it may not be really palatable or interesting maybe for larger audiences. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But for me, that's what I'm interested in seeing. Superman is an archetype. He is the superhero. He needs to be a superhero. In this movie, he's never a superhero. Not once. This isn't even a fucking Superman movie because he never becomes Superman across the entire fucking movie. I mean, he ends it by killing Zod. Bullshit.
Okay, go in depth on that point.
What do you mean?
On that he's never a superhero. I mean, I think I understand, but I want
because he. I mean, there's never he puts on the suit. He obviously has his powers, but he's the only time he really takes much in the sense of initiative is when he decides to blow up the terraforming planet. He is forced. The movie makes this big deal out of. You have to take this leap of faith. You have to decide when the time is right. But the decision is really forced on him when he reveals he's Superman. He never does anything super heroic in the entire movie because because when he becomes Superman and like reveals himself because Zod comes down. He never does it because he wants to help people, really. Like, I mean, it's got the whole, like, you know, the Earth's going to be blown up, but it's like he never, like, you know, goes and, like, stops a mugging or prevents someone from committing suicide. He never does any Superman-type shit in the entire movie. All he does is have a big, dramatic fight with aliens, you know? Like, that's not, like, Superman. Like, you need to have some... Like, they don't even end the movie with him being Superman. They end the movie with him being fake Clark Kent, you know? Like, there's not... At no point in the movie do I feel like, okay, this is Superman now. Like, he's figured it out. He is Superman. Like, this is... And if they continue with it thematically, it maybe could be interesting into the next movie, but that would mean that the next movie would have to be him becoming Superman. Like, it would be effectively another origin story. Because this is one of the things that, honestly, usually this is a kind of a weird Superman origin, because Superman origins almost always deal with more him going to Metropolis and that aspect of it, because that's the origin of actual Superman. It doesn't usually care all that much about the Krypton stuff or him growing up with Jonathan and Martha Kent. Like, it's almost always you get a little bit of that, and then I'm heading to Metropolis, I'm going to be fucking Superman, and then dealing with the ramifications of that decision. And he never makes that decision across the entire movie. Like, at no point is I'm Superman now. He never even, like, embraces, I guess, that title. Like, he never embraces that responsibility. He never really discusses it. He never discusses should I really use my powers to help people all that much? Like, should I try to become this, like, figure that, like, my fathers are trying to put on me? Like, Superman has no initiative, has no drive. He's not Superman.
I wouldn't go as far as you're saying with that. I do understand where you're coming from. I think to say he has absolutely no initiative or drive is wrong to
He's
me.
got a little bit of it, but it feels like he's kind of weirdly manipulated by his father figures more than he's inspired by them in a lot of ways. And he's just sort of told what to be by Jor-El, or told, don't reveal yourself, son, because humanity's not ready for you, like in every single flashback with Jonathan Kent.
Yeah, and I don't agree with you to that extent. I do understand where you're coming from, and I think the issue I was trying to get at here, because, you know, I value hearing that perspective, because, you know, you've actually read Superman. You are much more invested. You are much more invested in this character as a whole than I am, and I say that as someone who does really like the Superman I've seen. This is a character I like to see done well, very much so, because I think the dividends are really high when you do it well for me. And I think a lot of what you just said there about sort of the traditional arc of it, I guess I just feel like the 1978 movie did a lot of that kind of perfectly, and I don't know. I thought Man of Steel gave me something different. It still felt like the character, to a certain extent, to me, as understanding that I went into this movie not saying this is kind of what I believe Superman to be, and I want to see that. I approach this stuff.
I want to make a point that I did not come into this... I mean, I didn't come into this movie expecting that's what the movie was going to be.
Okay.
I was coming into this movie expecting it a lot more to be about Clark Kent and him growing up, which is why I was excited about the movie, was that was going to be the primary thing about the movie. Because you see him in the trailers wandering around, he's all grizzled up, and it seems like, okay, he's trying to figure out how to be Superman. That's what the movie looked like it was going to be. And that's what I was interested in as an origin story, because that's what I'm saying, is that's not generally covered. Is this how does he get to that? Like, how does he decide to be Superman? Like, how does someone really reach that decision? Not a lot of emphasis is ever placed on that. And I guess really, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have been expecting this movie to be that. And I think this movie is bad on top of, like, this is not why I think the movie is bad. I think the movie is just dull outside of this. But I don't think what they're doing is interesting from a Superman fan perspective to me. This is not an interesting version of this character, but you had set up an interesting scenario about which you could explore these ideas of how one decides to become Superman, and they really don't. He just sort of.
I think it depends on how you're defining
Superman.
I think it depends on how you're defining Superman, but I think it's very much an arc of how he decides. I think it's less about, you know.
It's more about him deciding, okay, I can reveal myself to be who I am. But that's not the same thing as becoming Superman.
Yeah.
And they focus so much on the Kryptonian side, and I so don't care. The Kryptonian side has never been interesting, has never been important to Superman. They try to, and it's even, falls apart within the context of this own movie, ignoring other Superman stuff. They try to build up this, nature versus nurture, Kryptonian side versus human side, but you can't. Because Superman's human. He's got the Kryptonian biology, but he's just human. He was raised in Kansas. He's fucking human. There's no point in the movie about, he has this struggle of, should I embrace this Krypton? Like, should I go with Zod or something? Like, should I embrace this Krypton?
But that's
should
not.
I let a new Krypton be born and like live in that world?
That's not the thematic struggle of the movie, and I don't think it's. I think nature versus nurture is not the right way to describe it. And
David S. Goyer himself has fucking said it. Like, I had, like, kind of parsed that out myself, but then I saw an interview with him where he's, like, straight up, this is a movie about nature versus nurture. It's like, well, you fucked up at that then. Because it's not, like, because, like, that's not a Superman thing, even. Like, like, this Kryptonian versus human halves thing.
Okay. But in the context of this movie, for me, it very is much about, yes, he is raised as human. He loves a lot of humans because of this. He knows, he feels at home to a certain extent in humanity, except for the fact that he is an alien. His biology is different. He has these powers. He struggled his whole childhood and adolescence to master them and find some way to live without going fucking insane. That's kind of the whole idea of many of these flashbacks and figuring out what he's going to do with his life and how he's going to control himself and how he even can live among humans if this is his core issue. And I think that's what they're touching upon. And I think that the theme there, if it is a nature versus nurture thing, is how he integrates this side of himself with the human side of himself to make something better. And I do think that arc works in the movie, and I do see that. And I think if the arc is him becoming Superman, I don't think it's not the version of Superman you're describing, and I understand that, and I understand the disappointment, and I agree with that. I agree this is not the Superman. This is not like the Christopher Reeve Superman. It's not the common
any version of Superman.
It's different. And
it isn't even like old school. Like, I'm like kind of a weirdly almost terroristic in how I approach these kinds of things. Superman, where he attacks the rich and shit.
That happened?
Yeah. Golden Age comics are weird. Golden Age Superman is weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what point was I on? Anyway, I think that's the arc of him becoming. I think the hero he becomes is someone who uses the biology he has and the alien side he has for the purposes of humanity and to be better and to protect and to it's. I think it works.
Like, another one of my problems with that is that it's like, I think they really poorly handle his relationship with Jonathan Kent. Like, their version of Jonathan Kent is very bizarre because
I disagree.
At no point in the movie does Jonathan Kent teach him anything fucking useful. At no point does he teach him how to be a good person or anything like that. Like, he never like instills any sense of morality in Superman. Like, honestly, most of what Jonathan Kent does is he's like, I don't know what you should do. Like, I have no fucking clue. But I know one thing for sure. Don't let anyone find out what you are. Humanity isn't ready. He says that like 2 or 3 times of like just straight up like his speeches are like when the bus thing and then getting punched by the kid and then like doesn't say it but like implies it when he gets his stupid ass killed in the tornado. That's like he's basically just I don't know what he's like. I don't know if you should punch people or not. Like, my Superman, I don't fucking know. I don't have superpowers. Should you let the kids die or not? I don't fucking know. I don't care. Just don't let people find out what you are. Humanity isn't ready. Even though, later in the movie, when a fucking alien spaceship comes down and literally says that in 24 hours it will blow up the Earth, and humanity doesn't go crazy. Like, there's not, like, massive panic in the streets. Now everybody's like, holy fucking shit, there are fucking aliens. Humanity clearly was basically fine with the fucking idea.
I think you're dramatically oversimplifying the issues of the Jonathan Kent character in the movie and those ideas. Because I think it's more than just the idea of that he can't reveal himself because humanity is not ready. I think the entire point of the tornado scene is that he can't reveal himself because there's the side of humanity not being ready, and also the side that Clark's not ready for that. He's still a kid to a certain extent, and Superman can't turn 18 and then become Superman.
I mean, that's what he does. When he's 18, he moves to Metropolis and becomes Superman.
Okay, this version that we're seeing here, I think it's
has to wait till he's in his fucking 30s.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I mean, sure. Christopher Reeve is like 35 in the 1970s.
But I don't think they say it. Like, they straight up say in this movie that Superman is 33.
Yes, several times.
Yes. So.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, I think there's more nuance to the Jonathan Kent character there. I really like Kevin Costner in this movie. I think
he's
scenes.
good. I just don't think.
I think I get a very clear sense of what Clark's life was like. I think a lot of the morality issues you're saying, no, he does not sit down and have the discussion of what is right and wrong with Clark. But I get the sense, certainly as we see Clark moving through life through the flashbacks, that he was touched by his father in these ways, and that we don't necessarily need to see those sides of it, literally. But I do think we see the sides that...
Those are the sides that are important, not this, don't let people find out what you are.
It's important. It's important to this story. It's important to this context.
And the story is dumb, because it's not an interesting... say this humanity isn't ready. Like don't let people find out who you are. You're an alien. Like this in this weird Kryptonian, but it's like your other dad's kind of like, oh, whatever. Like you should be an ideal to strive towards. Like I said, it doesn't feel like Superman takes this decision on himself in any real way. Like he doesn't even own really the decision to reveal himself all that much. Like he does have a little bit where he could decide to hide himself, but not really, not honestly. Like he could he would die too if the whole world was developed in like a fucking singularity. So like at no point, like I'm saying, does he ever become straight up Superman, and at no point do you see him becoming Superman. Like he's struggling with the decision whether or not to reveal himself. He never struggles with the decision how or why he should use his powers. And that is the fucking question. That is the interesting question. Why would you become Superman? How would you take the decision on yourself? Is becoming Superman the right thing to do? Is taking that responsibility and is trying to become the symbol for people a good thing to do? Because realistically speaking, it's not. Because you're just taking, he's a godlike vigilante, and that's a terrifying fucking thing. Like, the movie does not struggle with any of the interesting Superman questions. They just make up a dumb Superman question that doesn't really gel with the character, and then try to make a movie out of it, and then I think it kind of falls apart.
And again, I see where you're coming from, and I agree that's not, what you're describing is not what the movie's going for. And, the issue of Superman and the question of what becoming Superman means, there are different focuses here. And all I can say on that, I think I could go deeper into a lot of the issues I liked about the movie, but I know we're going to disagree on them. Yeah. So I don't want to, prolong this past the point where we're going to get anything out of it. But, I like the story they're telling. I got a lot out of the story they're telling. I think I got a hell of a lot out of the Jonathan Kent scenes. And I think, they're very much, it is a different bent to it. And I mean, I noticed that right off the bat. This is not they're not pitching this necessarily as a superhero story, quote unquote. They're pitching this as a sci-fi epic.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi movie.
It is the Superman equivalent of what Christopher Nolan kind of does in the Batman movies, where we're not doing Batman as a superhero comic book story. We're doing Batman in the real world, and they're trying to interpret all these things through the lens of, if Superman actually came to Earth, what are some of the things that would happen? And I think actually some of the best material they do under that, if that's the context they're working with. I really like the Jonathan Kent material and the Martha Kent material and a lot of the material with Clark growing up, because it is about, these people who these are just, these are just farmers from Kansas. How would they deal with having a son as an alien? And you made fun of Jonathan Kent for not knowing what to tell his son. He wouldn't. He's being honest in that he doesn't have all the answers.
What use is he? Because he doesn't tell him anything useful. All he really tells him is, don't let people find out what you are. Humanity isn't ready.
I disagree with that. Saying that if
what else does he give to Clark? What does Clark take away from it?
If your parents have to tell you something absolutely literal that you can write down in your diary and go back to it every time you feel sad, and that's what you think your parents make.
No, but he needs something. They need a moment. They just don't have a moment. They pick all these scenes.
I think there are great moments. I think they have
This is the moment in his life I should be seeing right now, because it's not honestly that big a deal.
I think the bus moment, and you go after the bus where he says, maybe you should have let them die, and it's a tough thing for him to say, and it's a tough thing for Clark to hear, and to understand there are nuances to his powers. It's not just black and white in this scenario. And then we go into the scene where he shows him the ship in the farmhouse, and I think there's a great exchange there about the idea he goes through the whole thing about, you're the answer to are we alone in the universe, and then Clark asks him, can I just still be your son? And he says, you are my son. And that's a very, very important moment in the development of the movie, because that's Clark knowing that he does have a home. He is not completely lost. And I think that's something he flashback. When they choose to employ that flashback, that's a moment when Clark feels really lost in the present and feels really outcast. And so that's something his father gave him, is this sense of acceptance. And I don't think that's something you can put into words, and I don't think that's something you can make.
I mean, I would give you that is one of the really good moments. It's preceded by I don't like the whole you should have just let them die. I don't think that's, because again, that was also another situation where it's he didn't he could have just opened the window and then helped the people swim out. He didn't need to reveal his powers at all.
But he's also a kid, and
I mean, he's a dumb kid. You don't have to be smart to figure out you don't, to save these people, you don't have to fucking lift the bus out of the lake. I mean, all those kids were dumb because he just lowered the window and swim the fuck out, but still.
Yeah.
It's a bus. It's not a big deal. You can take care of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I think we should probably move on from this issue.
Okay.
We have not touched a lot upon the third act, which you did not like.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go first this time.
Okay.
I really like the action in this movie. I think the scale of it really wowed me. I think they really took the opportunity of the powers of their characters to illustrate a style of action that we really have not seen before on this scale, in this scope, in this style. And I think that's something really cool the movie does. The effects and choreography are fantastic. I really like the way Zack Snyder shoots the action. I like the way it all comes to life in terms of the effects, and I think it's a nice... There's obviously a lot of CGI going on here, but I think to me that's a proper employment of CGI because you're showing things that you couldn't back in the day have Christopher Reeve throw someone through a building because you couldn't do that without hurting someone.
Yeah.
So
and causing just hundreds of thousands of property damage and killing a couple dozen people.
Sure. And in any case, so I really like that. I think the scale, and I like how the scale escalates. And I think for me, most of the action beats in the movie have a very clear emotional purpose in the arc of Superman and of Zod and some of the other side characters. When Superman first goes in to fight Zod, that's the scene where he punches him halfway across Kansas, and that's an issue of him having, the first time he's gone into a battle, having trouble controlling his emotions. Again, this is not a classical take on Superman, but I think it's interesting going into this idea of Superman being tested to this degree his first time out. And there's a clear emotional purpose to that first fight in Smallville to me. I think especially...
Where they just destroyed the entirety of Smallville. That's not it. That town just got wiped off the fucking map. Everyone should just move. I mean, okay, the Sears is basically fine, but...
No, the Sears got destroyed.
But, I mean, the sign was still there for them to put in the center of the shot while Superman flies away, so...
Yeah, there's product placement, and that bothers me a little bit, but,
God, I really
that's
wanted
the world we live in.
Budweiser after that movie. I can tell you that. And then
were there Budweisers in it?
Yeah,
okay.
when they were that's what they were always drinking at the Kent house.
Yeah.
And then I also really wanted to go to 7-Eleven. I don't know
IHOP?
why. Yeah. Oh God, the IHOP. The IHOP got completely destroyed. That seems like a weird bit of product placement. It's we want you to just have Superman just completely destroy the goddamn IHOP.
Maybe they're hoping people will get so sad that they will go to IHOP after the movie and be like, please give me pancakes, let me know the world is safe.
Yeah.
But in any case, I think they're walking a fine, a really weird line there between you want to put. I understand you want to put a couple of human institutions in there to make it clear that to make it palatable and have it be okay, I know what a 7-Eleven is. Someone gets thrown through a 7-Eleven. That's we understand this is happening in the real world, but you don't need to linger on the 7-Eleven side.
Yeah, it's the way it's shot. The most egregious one to me is Sears, where Superman comes out and has his little talk with Detective Stabler from SVU, and then it's this man is not our enemy. It's okay, I'm gonna fly now, and then it's the shot is this wide shot where Sears is right in the center frame, and Superman flies up right in front of it, as if it's Sears is giving us Superman. God bless Sears and Superman.
These movie budgets are high.
Yeah,
we're gonna. Yeah. Sadly, I think we're gonna.
Most of it is a cartoon, but
sadly, I think we're gonna see more and more of this. In the next Avengers, when they go out for dinner at the end of the movie, it's gonna be at a Jack in the Box or something.
Yeah.
And Tony Stark will read the menu.
Captain, they're attacking the Windies. Oh no, those damn Skrulls!
All right,
our Burger Kings are under threat.
Jarvis, bring me up the menu for Wendy's.
Yeah.
I want to see what I can get while I'm there saving it.
Hulk, eat Big Mac!
I think Joss Whedon would kill himself.
Yeah.
I think if he were forced to do that. All right, we're getting off topic. In any case, I like the escalation of the action. I think there's a nice emotional heft to much of the action in the movie, to me, of all of it. And especially the final fight between Superman and Zod. I feel like they have built those characters so well up to that point. When they go into that final battle, I feel the stakes are very clear. And I feel the final moment where, I know you don't like this moment, but where he makes the choice to kill Zod.
Yeah, he makes the choice. Don't say he has to, because he does not have to.
He makes the choice, and I think that's how I phrased it. I didn't give this away in my review. I talked about a choice he makes, which I thought is I think it's a really good emotional moment for the film. I think it's about
anything with it. He snaps his neck, goes, ah! Hey, I'm Clark Kent. I'm going to work for the Daily Planet. Well, gee willikers.
Okay,
that's
sort
great,
of.
Mr. Kent.
And I actually, this is an issue with the movie I wanted to talk about. My number one thing I would change about the movie, were I in the editing room, is I think if you went from the scene where Zod's dead, Superman is crying in Lois's arms, I think that's a great scene. What they cut to is Superman throwing the drone at General Harry Lennix.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And that's an okay scene. It's got a really dumb line.
Superman's being a big dick there too.
Yeah.
Asshole Superman.
I don't know. If I were Superman and I knew about the drone program, I'd be like, guys, don't do that to me.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting question. Would Superman take on the responsibility to try to correct some of the mistakes the American government makes? There's an interesting quandary for Superman. It would be interesting if they tried to tackle that in something.
I mean, that's not what this movie is about.
That's not entirely fair, but still.
Maybe that's Man of Steel 2, is he learns about the NSA hacking program, and he's like, he goes to talk to the president, learns about this big conspiracy.
That would be really interesting if he was Clark Kent, and then he used his reporter side to do something. But it would be interesting if they had built up in any course of this movie about Clark Kent growing up, anything, fucking one, just mention of him wanting to become a reporter or doing anything about writing or any interest with anything reporter related whatsoever. If just one thing, fucking nothing. And then he becomes a reporter at the end. It's like, well, great.
Well, anyway.
Because that's what Superman does, right?
I mean, they do talk about it and explain it, and I thought it worked
Do they?
fine.
When? When does he really...
Not earlier in the movie, but he explains his motive for going to work for the Daily Planet.
No, but being a reporter. Beyond just being, because he has this bullshit, I need to have a job where I can keep my ear to the ground, and it makes sense why I'm around where there's trouble. It's he could be a police officer, or something like that, or a fireman, why would you ever be a reporter? How are you even qualified to be a reporter? You spent, you didn't go to college. You spent your entire life just wandering around in the middle of nowhere pretending to be Wolverine for half your life.
I think it's because Lois Lane knows who he is, and she's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and has Perry White's ear, and I think... Yeah.
It never implies that she gets him that job.
Absolutely implies that in that last
she's surprised
scene.
that he's there, right?
I didn't think that was the reaction
That's what
at all.
it looked like to me, is it's Clark Kent.
I didn't. I thought it looked like, you're here... We're keeping this on the down low because
I
all these
did
people
not
know who
get
you are.
that at
Okay.
all. That's not at all what it seemed
That's what it is.
That's not what it is at all. No, she's definitely surprised that he's there. She's definitely fucking surprised that he's there.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
She's so surprised. It's so obvious.
I've seen this movie twice.
I've seen it once, and it was obvious that she was surprised.
Okay. Well, anyway, if I can finish the point I started 10 minutes ago.
And even then, that's completely irresponsible of her. I'm just going to give this dude this job even though he doesn't deserve it in any way, shape, or form. So that makes her a terrible Lois Lane on top of it, if that's your interpretation.
All right, so you don't like Lois Lane either. Let's talk about that.
I think she's just really bland. Not a lot to say there. The romance with her and Clark / Superman is so unbelievably underdeveloped. It's one of the worst. It's worse than Thor to me, of just this... just completely unearned, is only there because it happened in the comics and because you need to have a romance subplot in these kinds of movies.
But is it really a romance subplot, or do they have the one kiss? Because they've just...
but then they make, puppy dog eyes at each other, and they're all, there's, the one shot where he's about to, give himself over to Zod's custody, and it's, it cuts to them, in the desert, standing, really, really close to each other, whispering in each other's ears. It is a romance. They heavily imply, these people are,
Sure.
Yes.
Even then,
it's a romance fucking subplot.
Okay, I can completely understand the attraction they have to one another and why, and how
it doesn't feel developed. Maybe Lois to Superman, but why? No. It doesn't. They don't focus on it at all. It's not given any attention. It's just hey, you're Lois Lane. I'm Clark Kent. You're Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. You had a fucking comic book named that, so you're my girlfriend. That's how the story works. This movie would have been way better if they hadn't had her, anything with her, being Superman's love interest, because they didn't, they obviously did not really want to do it. And then if they did not, have him be a reporter at the Daily Planet, because it's those moments, those aspects of the movie are only there because that's what Superman traditionally does, but they don't build it up within the context of the movie at all, so, it doesn't work. It's just Lois Lane becomes his girlfriend, so she's just going to be his girlfriend in this movie.
Okay,
Clark Kent becomes a reporter, so he's just going to be a reporter at the end.
All right. You'll probably cut me off again, but I did I did understand the attraction, and I thought it worked fine. And I think it does not the most. But I don't think it's developed as this is the one love. This is a major romance. This is the point of the movie. This is.
I guess not.
This
but
is
it's
they fall in love and get married at the end. I don't think that's what it is. I think.
But it's still distracting. It feels unnecessary. It doesn't feel natural to what these characters would do. The situation they're in. For fuck's when they kiss, it's he's Metropolis has just been they are standing in the ruins of skyscrapers. They're standing on the bones of the people who died in this terrible event, and he's fucking and he's just had like almost all of the rest of his people killed by the military by giving them the warp drive thing, and he starts making out with Lois Lane.
And I think that's something that gives them both comfort, given the amount of adrenaline running through them at that point, and that they have had
Superman
attraction,
just gives no shit about all the lives. Like he's just like, well, that was.
I
think
you can give a shit about everything that just happened and kiss the woman who's been really fucking nice to you and believed in you.
That's dumb.
No, you can't feel two emotions at once. Just put a stamp on that.
I mean, yes. I mean, literally, you cannot feel two emotions at once. I think, like, you can have a blend of emotions so that it would be a single emotion. But you can't feel two emotions at once. That's crazy. You can't be sad and happy at literally the exact same time. You switch between them.
Okay.
What kind of monster are you that you can feel multiple emotions at the same moment?
If you haven't realized by now, Sean's a psychopath.
You can't feel... Am I crazy? You literally cannot feel multiple emotions at the same time. Like, you can't taste two different things at the same time. You cannot experience two different of the same sensation at one time. Like, this is not... No, you can't. Okay. Literal human... No. Like, anything can't. Like, by definition, you can't.
Okay, I guess we have different definitions of this.
Yeah, you've got some weird, fucked up understanding of emotion, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like, but even then, like, it's... Like, seriously, like, Metropolis was just leveled. He's met this woman twice. She's kind of cute. She was kind of nice to him. I'm gonna make out with her. Like, maybe it would have made a little sense if he was, like, more of a kid. Like, if he was, just had been a teenager or something. He's, like, 33 years old. Like, you know, like, it's not like this, I'm just gonna fucking make out with this chick thing. It's weird. It felt really distracting. And then all the dialogue between them felt really awkward and clumsy.
Okay.
So there. That's my, I think it was a really unnecessary part of the movie.
Alright, what else do you want to talk about?
I mean, honestly, like, most of the stuff we've been talking about is stuff that I didn't like. Well, obviously stuff I did not like about the movie, but, like, the main stuff I just didn't like about the movie is that I thought most of it was dull. And my biggest problem with this section, with the action part, was that I felt it went on way, way too long. Because you have the scene in Smallville, where it's like, where that goes on for a really long time, where he's fighting Feora and the other dude, and then after Smallville gets completely destroyed, they do, the thing where he flies away and, gives him the warp drive or whatever. And actually, before the Smallville thing, they have all the stuff on the ship that is kind of an action scene. Then he gives him the warp drive, and then he has the action scene where he fights the Dr. Octopus T-1000 giant terraforming device, which is also a weird scene because it's because that's then, split with this weird, really bizarre focus on Perry White and the staff of the Daily Planet. Ginny gets stuck under a building and whatever. And so that action scene felt really unfocused because it was am I supposed to be, focusing on what Superman's doing or what Perry White is doing? You're, giving both of them the exact amount of attention to the scene, and so it's there's no focus here.
I think they're giving it also, there's many things, it's an action sequence where multiple things are going on at the same time. It's,
Yeah.
It's not the first time anyone's ever done that.
But you need to have a clear focus in the action scene.
I thought there was absolutely a clear focus. It's Superman's going after the one in the Indian Ocean, the military and Lois Lane are going after the one in Metropolis, and then we have the people on the ground being affected by it. And so so there's the stakes laid out, and the two forces.
But you don't need to constantly be cutting back to Perry, because honestly, like I say, there was no focus. Honestly, the focus of that sequence felt like it was Perry White, this Ginny's trapped under the building, and that section, weirdly enough, reminded me a lot of almost like Transformers. That kind of side of the movie reminded me a lot of what they do in Transformers, where there are too many characters that, these supporting characters that are given a little bit too much focus. Perry White is a weirdly constant presence throughout the movie. Ginny and the other dude at the Daily Bugle, a kind of weirdly constant presence
Daily
throughout
Planet.
the movie. Yeah, the Daily Planet crew,
you said Daily
which is
Bugle.
3. Oh,
that was funny.
It's the same fucking thing. Only the Daily Bugle's way better. And then you also have the military, where you've got the general dude, and you've got Christopher Maloney, and then you've got Professor Hamilton, and they're given a weird amount of focus throughout almost the entire movie too, from the point where they show up. And so it's you have this weird focus on these supporting characters, while Superman's just fighting a cartoon, and I thought that action sequence with him fighting the monster was just felt really cluttered, and I didn't have a good sense of what was going on in that side of it either. Because then they also have the dumb bullshit thing of it's the Kryptonian atmosphere. We're not going to have kryptonite in this movie. We're basically just going to have kryptonite in this movie. We're just going to call it atmosphere instead. And so that happens, and somehow he just overcomes it and destroys the monster, and then that saves Perry White. That whole scene, that whole sequence felt really cluttered and unfocused to me because we have all these characters that they're for some reason paying a lot of attention to. And then after that, then you have the fight with Zod. So that goes on for like 45 minutes without any like significant breaks, without any significant character beats. And for me, since I hadn't really felt invested in almost any of the characters up to that point, it was I was most invested in Zod and then Christopher Maloney because he's Detective Stabler from SVU. So it's like, and even then, like, I didn't think he was that good within the context of the movie itself, but I like Detective Stabler. So it's like that, like, action went on so long that I was just like, okay, I get it, like, Superman's punching stuff. And I agree, the action was really well done. Like, it is the kind of action I wanted. I just think the pacing of it went way over the top. Like, it just went on for way too long, and there was way too much of it. And so it just got, and especially with how, like, the action is designed, where the action is really intense, there's, like, a lot of shaky cam. You can't just take 45 minutes of that style of action scene because it's just, like, it just burns you out really quick, and then you're just sitting there watching cartoons on the screen, just being like, okay, like, can, like, something different happen now? Okay, no, we're still punching stuff. All right, can we get some, like, characters? Okay, we're still punching stuff.
I agree, it's exhausting. I think it's intentionally exhausting. I think it puts us in the mindset of the characters and the situation. And
but I think that, I mean, I get what you're saying there, but that's not I think in general that's not a smart thing to do with the movie, because it exhausts you, and then when it exhausts you as a viewer, you're sort of just pulled out of the movie of like, okay, like, this is kind of tiring in not a good way, and not like a way of like, when I come out of that, I'm like, whew, holy shit. I come out of it just like, all right, that was an extended action sequence, for fuck's sake. And now you're a reporter of the Daily Planet. Okay, movie's over.
All right.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
I'm trying to think of any other, like, really...
You said you liked Zod. You want to go into that?
Okay, yes, let's talk about the part of the movie I really liked. Zod was fucking cool. I think the way they handled where he was not a generic villain was really interesting. Like, honestly, he was the most sympathetic character in the entire movie because he was trying to keep his race from going completely extinct, which is like, yes, okay, I am behind you on this. Of like, I mean, it's you're being a huge dick to the humans, but then again, humans would do that to you. Like if we had, like, if that was our survival, we wouldn't give a fuck. Like, we would wipe out another race to survive, or like to ensure our own survival. So it's like, yeah, Zod, I am with you on this. You have been, like, people treated you like a maniac, and you tried to stage a coup to show them, hey, like, this is, like, our plan is this is fucked up, we need to save our race, and nobody listened to him. Then his friend, who's a scientist, somehow beat the shit out of him, even though he's a scientist and Zod was bred to be a warrior, so Zod had to resort to using
when does Jor-El beat the shit out of him?
When they walk in, like, Jor-El clearly wins that, like, fist fight at the beginning section of the movie where he, like, puts on the armor and, like, they fist fight and, like, Jor-El just kicks his ass, and then Zod has to use his, like, Spider-Man stinger and stab him.
Okay.
So yeah, like, that was just, like, a weird, like, dude, you're a scientist, like, because they set up the genetic breeding thing and then didn't feel like that had, like, any application in that sequence. So then Zod's like, okay, Jor-El was a fucking dick. Jor-El basically doomed our entire race by, like, not letting this, like, by not giving me the codex and letting me go, like, create a new Krypton somewhere else. So
of course, he also does want to create a Krypton in his own image and a master race kind of thing. And
but that's what Krypton was already doing. Like, that's not a big... Whatever, like, Krypton was already doing that.
Well, then
so
is it
Zod's,
valid to
like,
want to continue that?
That's there. I mean, if that's the way the Kryptonians evolved, like, is that really so terrible a thing for that species that they...
But we saw
because clearly, like, Jor-El is, like, the only dude who really gives a shit about it. Like, Zod's really satisfied with his role in life.
Yeah, except you're ignoring the fact that they clearly fucked themselves up because they destroyed their fucking planet in the process.
But that was really dumb. Okay, here we go. This is another problem. We're going to come back to Zod. This is another problem with the movie, is they have, like, half the dialogue is narrative exposition, and they fucking explain the Krypton shit twice, because you've got the 15-minute section on Krypton, and then Superman goes to the ship, where there's just the Superman suit there, and then he talks to Jor-El, the whole, like, memory crystal Jor-El, and he gives him, again, the exposition dump about Krypton. I was like, we've seen this, okay. But then he starts talking about how Krypton obviously has warp drives, and they had colonies on other planets, but then they just kind of stopped doing that.
They said they died out. They said they were doing this for a very long time.
They have
tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years.
But no, that's ridiculous. You have warp drives. You can go anywhere in the galaxy. They went to Earth, like they have a ship on Earth. They could have gone to Earth. It would have been no big deal. They have terraforming devices. They can make uninhabitable planets habitable for them. You do not run out of natural resources in that situation. You just simply don't. You have the entire expanse of the fucking galaxy as your toy. That was such a ridiculous part of the movie where they're like, we have all of these colonies in space, but then we just kind of didn't do that shit anymore, and then we ran out of natural resources, so we started mining the core of our planet, which is also, that's fucking ridiculous, and then we blew up. And it's like, why did you stop the space shit? Like, just keep doing the space shit. What are you people doing? Like, you had the answer to overpopulation. You had the answer to the limited natural resources, and then you just stopped doing it. You fucking morons. I thought that was, like, incredibly dumb. Because they actually, it felt like, at first, when he was actually on Krypton, they hinted at something that sounded really, really interesting, but then, like, I think I just kind of misinterpreted what they were talking about, where it all, like, the way they were talking to Jor-El at first, it almost sounded like going to other planets was considered, like, heretical in some way. But it didn't, like, they did kind of mesh with the rest of Kryptonian society, and, like, they didn't expand on it, and so it kind of gave me this interesting of, like, okay, like, that's why Jor-El is the only dude who has a rocket, is because the Kryptonians think that, like they're, like, maybe they, like, fear Rao, their red sun or something, and they don't want to go to other planets. Like, that would be cool. It's like, obviously, like, the movie wasn't going for it, but, like, they hinted at a solution to their own problem they created of, like, you guys have warp drives. You can go anywhere in the galaxy. You clearly have terraforming devices. Why did you all get wiped out when the planet blew up? Doesn't make any sense. I feel like I was going to go somewhere else with that, but I can't.
You were talking about Zod earlier.
Right. What was I saying about Zod?
You liked him.
Yes, I really liked Zod because, okay, that's it. Because Zod's pissed off because they could have survived the planet thing, but nobody did it, even though they very easily could have survived the planet thing. So then he comes to Earth and is trying at last to like, rebuild his race, and then he finds the son of his friend Jor-El, Kal-El, but then one, like, the whole, like, codex has somehow been bonded to his genetic, like, bullshit, and then, so then he's like, okay, well, fuck it, I'm just going to take over this Earth, like, this, for some reason, even though this Earth turns us into basically gods, I'm going to turn it into Krypton, which that didn't make any fucking sense. Like, why wouldn't you just have heat vision, I guess, and be able to fly? But then at the end, like, you do get this sense because of how he was bred to be a general, a warrior. He was, like, and it's fitting sort of like the theme of fatherhood throughout the movie. He was sort of felt like he was this father of Krypton in the sense of, like, he had to protect it because that was his role in life. That was his responsibility. And then this upstart Kansas motherfucker just wipes out the rest of their race and, like, just completely fucks them up. And he's like, well, fuck you, Kal-El. You asshole. You just committed fucking genocide on your own species, you fucking dick. So I'm gonna laser these guys, and then Kal-El kills him, even though Kal didn't really need to because he could have just flown away. But yeah.
So you're giving General Zod a free pass on that he's trying to commit genocide himself on many, many more people.
Well, because it's a difference. Like, there's a huge difference between committing genocide on your own species and committing genocide on another species. But like, we commit organized genocide on cows and chickens every fucking day. Like, we don't completely wipe them out, but the scale in which we kill them, yes, that's, like, organized slaughter. Other species, from his perspective, fair fucking game, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't think it's right, but from his perspective, I can totally see it. Where it's like the number one thing is the survival of your own species. Like, biologically, that's what you're trying to ensure.
All right, but if part of your argument about Superman is that he is human, that's his main allegiance, then
Superman is different. There's one, I mean, yes, it is his own species, but Superman's also not the villain of the movie. Superman is supposed to be the hero. Superman is supposed to be better than committing genocide on anything or anyone. So then when Superman kills off the rest of the Kryptonians, when he didn't really need to, he could have figured out a way. He's fucking Superman. That's a problem for me. At no point in that movie did Superman feel heroic. At no point did he feel like Superman. He felt like a dude with superpowers who had a vested interest in not letting humanity die, and he was willing to kill to do it. Which is fine, it's just not Superman.
Okay.
But anyways, with Zod, the best part of the whole fucking movie was when Zod is just beating the shit out of Superman, because of course he would, because Zod has the superpowers. Even though that's not, another thing that's wrong with the movie is that it's not clear how the fuck, when they land on Earth and they're still in their atmospheric suits, do they have any superpowers whatsoever? Because the superpowers come from the sun's radiation, and they're clearly blocking that out because they're wearing atmosphere suits that they wear in space. So whatever. But, like, Zod has superpowers, and he makes a really good point at one point in the movie fighting Kal-El, where he's like, I was bred to be a warrior. I trained my entire life to hone my mind and my body. Where did you train? On a farm? And then he floats. Best scene of the whole movie.
It's a great scene.
That was fucking awesome.
It's
really
great.
over the top, but fucking awesome. Best part of the whole movie.
Michael Shannon is very good.
Yes, he is. He will find him.
I like that scene too.
Yeah.
That is like he had a little bit of like Joker DNA from Dark Knight in him there, where he's just repeating the phrase and like
it really weirdly reminded me a lot of Dune, the movie. Of like because part of like the set design of like their like armor looked like Fremen type stuff from the Dune movie, but then also that like Michael Shannon's style of overacting was very much this I will kill him, like awesome. So yeah, Michael Shannon, Zod, great.
thumbs up.
Yes, like best part of the whole, like best version of Zod as far as I'm concerned so far. I mean, Zod's. Okay, they pick Zod for the movies because he's a very easy villain to do on movies, but Zod's like not a. Like Zod, I have not read a comic with Zod in it. Like, is how like little. Like, I don't even know if he's in the Superman cartoon. Like, he has such a little presence on actual Superman stuff.
He's not. I actually went through that recently and looked because if there was a Zod cartoon, I was thinking of watching it just to see what their interpretation was.
Pretty sure that he wasn't in there, but yeah,
they do. They do a story of a Kryptonian coming to Earth, and
because there are. I think that one might be Quetzal because there are several. Yeah,
yes.
there are several Kryptonians because he's not actually the last son of Krypton, even though they say that all the time.
Okay.
Well, I mean, now he is.
So, what villain do you want them to do in Man of Steel 2, Mr. Mitzelplex?
Well, yeah, Mixus Pitlick would be.
I forget how you say that. Sorry.
Everyone does.
Okay.
That would be yes. I mean, that would be fucking hilarious.
Peter Dinklage is.
Yeah, with how
or
like
Warwick Davis?
super self-serious like this Superman movie is. That like, do Mr. Mixus Pitlick. If you don't know who that is, he's a fifth dimensional imp who has like he's basically Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation, where he can just do whatever he wants, and he just kind of fucks around with Superman when he wants to.
That has to be Warwick Davis, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty great. And then when they reboot Batman, they can put Batmite, the like fifth dimensional imp equivalent for him, but he's a big fan of Batman. They can put him in those movies.
Okay.
And then you can have that's where your crossover comes from. It's like it could even be a Batman from a different universe, and it's like Mr. Mixus Pitlick, and then Batmite like bring them together across the boundaries of the multiverse.
All right. So you don't like this movie, so I'm not sure if you're even invested in this question.
Okay.
But since we're pretty much done talking about the movie, there's been a lot of talk. They are definitely developing a sequel, probably for 2015, maybe 2016. There were some stupid reports that said they'll have it ready for next summer. No, did you see the effects in this movie?
Yeah.
That takes more than 1 year.
It's like if they did that, it would be like they would like reuse half the it would be like a clip show movie.
Yes.
Like if they had to do that, it's just like we're just going to reuse half the action shit we did for this.
Yeah. And
Feora comes back somehow from the singular. Dumb thing in the movie. They made a singularity directly off the surface of the Earth. Earth would have been wiped out. Also, Lois Lane falling away from the gravitational singularity. That makes no fucking sense. There we go.
All right. Science. Anyway, but what were we talking about? So
I don't know. You're going
the sequels and stuff. Yeah.
Sequels.
I don't think Zack Snyder and David S. Goyer collectively have like the same clout as Christopher Nolan, but they have enough clout that they don't need to make a movie in 1 year.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not going to happen. So, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they have the amount of clout necessary to say we want to take our time on this one, give it 3 years or something. Which is
I would guess 2 years.
I would guess 2 years too. I'm just saying
definitely because Warner Brothers has specifically said they want to make a Justice League movie now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is that there's plenty of ways they can go in a sequel. I think. But do you think they can spin a Justice League kind of?
Not off of this movie. No fucking way. This movie is so like you said. This movie is not a comic book movie. It's a sci-fi movie. It is so self-serious in that regard that I wouldn't want them to make a Justice League movie with this kind of Superman because he's not Superman. But then with this style, Justice League just doesn't sound interesting to me because with this style, you would have Christopher Nolan kind of style Batman more or less in that, and that's not interesting. I don't care to see what their version of Flash and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman would be.
I mean, here's
for me to see a Justice League movie, I guess.
Here's what's so weird and unexpected to me because they were talking about Justice League so much. I was wondering before Man of Steel came out that did they do any of the making of this movie with something in mind? Obviously not. There are some Easter eggs. There's
LexCorp. There's Wayne Enterprises logos in places,
and that's fine. That's that's whatever. And I liked this movie. I love this movie. I like the tone of it, and those are not problems for me. But yeah, this is not the setup for a Justice League. This is not Iron Man 1 Marvel, where clearly you can have a bigger universe.
Yeah.
What's odd to me though is that because these are both I don't think this is like a copy paste tonal or anything from Christopher Nolan, but it's in that kind of
but it's sort of trying to take the same ideology and approach it with Superman, which was a huge mistake in the first place. But
okay, well anyway, yes, it's more of that kind of thing. So, and because they both have Hans Zimmer scores in particular, I could totally see this Superman and that Batman working together.
Yeah,
would not
crazy world's finest. Weird movie.
Would not necessarily track with what we see in the Christopher Nolan movies, but if you assume that all happens before Superman comes to Earth, sure, why the fuck not? Like Bruce Wayne, we start the next like Batman with like the Christian Bale Batman, like he's with Selena Kyle in Venice or something, and he sees Zod invade, and he's like, fuck, I gotta put this suit back on. He goes, punches Joseph Gordon-Levitt, takes his suit back, and gives Joseph Gordon-Levitt like tights and makes him dress up as Robin. And then he's like,
that's his name.
Yeah, he's like, shoot, and then he goes to, and then he and Superman can get together. I could see that. I couldn't see them doing like Green Lantern and Flash and stuff.
Green Lantern, and the Flash and Wonder
certainly
Woman.
not. Yeah,
this does not feel like a good building block for seeing this Superman like standing and talking to a dude dressed in a Flash costume would be ridiculous.
Yeah, and it to be fair, it wasn't developed for that. David S. Goyer did not sit down and write this. Zack Snyder did not direct it with that in mind. Because you've got to remember they had wrapped, I think, on principal photography when Avengers came out. The only reason Warner is wanting to do this is because Avengers was big.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a shitty reason to want to do the Justice League movie. And this is a bigger issue with me, is that the Avengers was as successful as it was because it was good and because Marvel had built up so much audience goodwill. And that's just a different thing. There was a clear creative reason to do the Avengers. There is no creative reason with what Warner has to do Justice League in terms of what they've already established. I'm not saying you couldn't make a good Justice League movie. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could. But that's, there's no creative reason with the assets they currently have to want to do that other than, boy, Avengers was big, we should get some copycat money. And I don't even see why they necessarily need the copycat money, because Man of Steel is huge.
Man of Steel is making huge amounts of money. So.
Yeah, and that the sequel will be even bigger, probably, if it tracks with usual, superhero, patterns. Yeah. So, and they can do more Batman if they want.
Yeah, they can reboot Batman whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, and
hopefully
I hope they go in a different direction. Yeah. But yeah, and I guess that's one of the things that makes me a little disappointed is I like this version of Superman a lot, but obviously because this is successful, the Christopher Nolan stuff is successful. This is the style they're going in. It's not going to work for most of the DC characters. Yeah. I don't need to see another version of Christopher Nolan's Batman, because if anyone other than Christopher Nolan did it, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat. Whether or not you like that interpretation or not, I think we can all agree it's an interpretation that is unique to how Christopher Nolan makes movies.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't work if you had someone else do it. But moreover, I would rather see a Batman more like the animated series or something. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So sequel stuff. I theorize on this because I think one
what do you want out of a sequel?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say it right now. I think, the most honestly, probably the most serious flaw with the movie, with the way it ends, ignoring the other Superman stuff. I have my own personal reasons why I don't like that decision they made, but ignoring all of that within the context of the movie, his decision to kill Zod, the biggest reason why I don't think it works is because they don't dwell on it at all. That movie should have had a dark fucking ending, because Superman, because he killed someone. That's a big deal. That you shouldn't have, then he doesn't report at the Daily Planet.
To be fair, the point I was trying to make earlier, and you kept interrupting me, and I wasn't able to finish it, was that the scene with him and the general, if they took that out, the ending of the movie would feel a lot more natural. Because what the jarring tonal shift is that you go from... I'm not saying it would feel perfect, and I understand this, but here's the thing. If you go from Superman killing Zod and crying in Lois's arms, which is a good, really well-done moment to me, and then you go into Superman talking to the general and he seems emotionally stable, that's a mistake. But if you cut from that to him with his mother in the graveyard and it feels like they are still processing this, I mean, I think that, for one, the scene in the graveyard would take on a slightly different tone if you went from Superman crying in Lois's arms to presumably several months later, Superman and his mother in the graveyard.
Years, because the Daily Planet was completely destroyed in that fight, so that's years and years and years and years later.
Superman rebuilt it all himself.
Sure.
I don't know.
Not this Superman. This Superman's a dick. He would never do that.
Here's the thing. I don't necessarily need to see Lex Luthor right off the bat, but there's a great end for Lex Luthor.
This is just a setup for Lex Luthor.
It's destroying
because this is a terrible fucking Superman. So, yeah, Lex Luthor, come in and be this guy sucks. This guy really sucks. He has these amazing powers, and he did not use them in a particularly responsible way to minimize destruction and loss. So
I think it's an interesting path they can take,
Yeah.
and have them say Luthor, like, let's say he came in and paid for the reconstruction of Metropolis or something.
yes, which would be something he would do.
Yes.
Because then he would own the fucking
So,
city.
so who do you want to play Lex Luthor? I have several casting ideas.
I don't care. I don't care about theorizing about casting.
They're kind of jokes, but
Okay, sure.
my main one would be Bryan Cranston.
He-
Just from Breaking Bad when he's
Yeah.
bald, like
Fuck it, just Clancy Brown because he voiced Lex Luthor in the animated series.
he's
so-
great in the animated
Yes.
series.
So Clancy Brown, there we go.
Okay,
That's my pick.
all right.
So yeah, like
Any other sequel thoughts?
One. What do you think they should title the sequel? Like,
I have no fucking
straight
idea,
Man of
and
Steel
it's
2? because I have two fantastic titles.
either you do Superman of Steel, or what they really should have done if they wanted to make a trilogy is you do it. Superman starts, Man of Steel Rises. Just follow the Batman
Yeah.
model. Go do that.
Like for me, I have one title that I think I would love if they did this because it's so hokey, and then one that is actually a good, like if they went for it, if they like built off of what happens in this ending, would be a legitimately great title for the movie. My favorite one, the hokey one, is Man of Tomorrow, like with the actual number 2 in there. 'Cause that's one of his other titles. That would be great if they just called it Man of Tomorrow. But like, legitimately, would be a really great title if they decide to continue off thematically from what this ending does. Is called Last Son of Krypton.
I think that'd be
Because-
great. Yes.
There we go. Ready made. Hopefully that's what they do. Hopefully they build off of this ending in a significant way with, like, dealing with that stuff. Even if that does mean we're still not going to get a proper Superman. Like, we may never get a proper Superman out of this franchise. Like, it may be a, like, Smallville thing where at the very end, he becomes Superman. Like, really, seriously Superman. It's like, okay, thanks. But yeah,
I actually
like,
think
Last Son of Krypton, yeah, there you go.
I could see that being
Metropolis Kid.
that could be not Metropolis Kid, but The Last Son
Yes.
of Krypton could be a great sequel title. And actually, if you wanted to do Man of Tomorrow, but just write out the 2,
Yeah,
that could
like
be a good one
actual
for
Man
the
of
third.
Tomorrow be the third title. Yeah, like that's how I would structure it.
That'd be a really good bookend. Like that would
Yeah.
be so much cleaner than the weird Batman titles.
Yeah, it's like Batman Begins, kind of a weird title, and you really think about it, but I'll take it. It's got alliteration. That's comic book stuff.
Yeah.
Then The Dark Knight, okay, that's awesome. Dark Knight Rises, go fuck yourself. God, you fucking assholes. Because then you always have to say The Dark Knight Rises, and that's so close to The Dark Knight Returns, like one of the most famous Batman graphic novels. Just go fuck yourself, Christopher Nolan. I hate that title so much.
I think there were probably a lot of people
Yeah.
that had input on that.
Like, God, wouldn't it be fantastic if they like called the next one or the third one like Man of Steel Returns, so that it's like Superman Returns and then Man of Steel Returns? You're like, you fucking dicks! God damn it! What are you
I
doing?
think they are paranoid about people connecting this to Superman Returns, so they will never do that. But you know,
They call the next one The Man of Steel, and so
Okay.
it's an even grittier reboot of Superman.
I think it's I've always theorized that the reason Dark Knight Rises is called Dark Knight Rises is because there was a studio mandate that they had to include the phrase Dark Knight in the
Yeah,
title,
that's very possible. I don't know.
and that's why they had to do a dumb
Yeah.
title because there's no good way you can do that. I think
Yeah,
unless you're just going to call it straight up The Dark Knight Returns.
which honestly, that would be better.
That would be fine,
Like
yeah.
if you, because it's it's the movie and the graphic novel. You're not going to get those two mixed up. So
Sure, and I think I'm just worried. I hope Superman or Warner Brothers does not say you have to keep including Man of Steel in the titles, and if they do, just call it Man of Steel 2, whatever. But
yeah. But even like Man of Steel 2 sounds awful.
No, it
Like,
sounds
that's-
awful,
That's
but-
a terrible title. I mean, even just Man of Steel, I'm not a huge fan of as the title, but
they have it be. They really do have the next one be a Superman Batman team up movie, and they call it Men of Steel, and make it sound like just like a gay porno or something.
if they made a Superman Batman team up and they didn't call it World's Finest, I would be sad.
I know. All right.
All right.
So
Superman of Steel returns.
So did you like this?
tomorrow.
Did you like this movie more or less than Superman Returns?
It's been so long since I've seen Superman Returns, but I legitimately remember enjoying Superman Returns more than this. Like I can't say if it's a better movie or not because I haven't seen that one since it came out. So, and I'm such a different person now than I was when I saw it. So
Yeah, Superman Returns is not a bad movie.
Yeah.
I think it's got. I don't know if I can say I like that movie because it's got a whole ton of issues
Yeah.
and it's kind of fucking boring. But
Well,
I think
mean,
Superman,
I thought this movie was really fucking
Okay.
boring. So
well, anyway, I still like Man of Steel. This was mostly Sean dissing Man of Steel.
Yes.
If you want to hear what I actually thought about it, you can go read my review on We Got This Covered. I don't go into spoilers, but I read it through again the other night after I saw the movie again, and it pretty much sums up what I thought about the movie. I wrote it at like 3 a.m, so I didn't remember anything I wrote, so I went back and read it. I was like, hey, that turned out okay.
Yeah.
That's always nice. It could have been. It could have been like in Spanish for all I knew. I was so delirious at that time in the morning.
Like you could have been calling Superman Batman throughout the entire review.
Yeah,
oh, shit.
I did actually make a mistake. I kept referring to Diane Lane plays Martha Kent. I kept calling her Diane Keaton. And I got that. And I got that comment when I woke up, and I'm like, "Yep, that's." I knew something would be bad if I wrote this late at night. But yeah, because that's how it goes. All right, so that's our discussion on Man of Steel. Even split here.
Yeah, I mean, there's two people, so it's kind of it's either an even split
Sean,
or it's not.
Here's a question.
Sure.
Is the movie we have been most unified on in opinion Prometheus?
Oh yeah, by far. Like that's without a doubt. That is.
I can't tell if that's sad or not. That is so.
I mean, that movie is so awful. Like.
I think it's brought us more pleasure of podcasting than any other movie.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Those are like my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
I think one day we will have to do Prometheus 3 podcast. I hope there isn't.
There was another, like a new screenwriter got assigned to Prometheus 2. Like I don't remember who it was.
I'm starting to think. I don't think that movie's going to happen. I think there's
probably not. But.
This is like the second screenwriter they're on for the sequel that hasn't even officially been announced, and Ridley Scott's already kind of working on some other stuff. And I mean, he's doing his Blade Runner prequel or whatever the fuck that thing is. I think it's actually a sequel, but who knows? The world doesn't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what?
Replicant of Steel.
If a trailer actually comes out for Prometheus 2, fuck it, we'll do another Prometheus episode. We don't care. We'll talk more about Prometheus.
I really hope there's a Prometheus 2. Like, I just want to know how you make that movie. Like,
I know
what you would do, because there's just it would have to be so completely different from Prometheus 1. Just like. You can't land on another planet where there's more black ooze and just do that again.
I think they could.
Have to make some
they are that dumb.
Yeah, but if like you were legitimately wanted to make a sequel to that movie based on how that movie ends, you'd have to make some like crazy, weird avant-garde, like you land on an alien planet where everything's like abstract or something.
I mean, it would have to be the only live-action character would be Liz Shaw, and then Michael Fassbender would be a CGI head, and then all the aliens would be CGI, presumably.
Yeah.
Or people in costumes. Either way, you're only seeing one human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, no studio would ever make that.
Yeah. So, there.
All right.
Prometheus 2.
If it happens, we'll cover it. Anyway, so yeah, that's the episode. I think we've talked enough on this.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about next week?
I don't know.
Yeah, we might.
Something happen next week.
If I can play it by then, I think next week could be a good Last of Us week. Sure. Not a lot going on. This was. I think Man of Steel for the summer is probably the last major release we will go into this kind of depth on. We will probably talk about the Wolverine, but I know that's coming out the week I'm out of town, so it'll be a little later. But I think that's one that if we don't give it 2 hours to, we will at least talk about.
I'll probably end up seeing that movie. I don't know. Like, I'm not hugely excited about it, but...
Yeah, I'm not either, but I feel like it's something we've talked about enough on the podcast. It'd be interesting to cover. And who knows if there's anything else we'll see and talk about. But, if something strikes our fancy, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, we'll still find stuff to talk about. Maybe we'll do some Doctor Who next week. I don't know.
Actually, there's one thing, like, I was thinking just about, like, superhero movie stuff. One thing I want to bring up before the end of this podcast.
Okay.
Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4.
Officially
confirmed they're making those. Like with specific dates, right?
Yes. June something of... No, I think it's July of 2016 and then May of 2018.
Yeah, so they're pretty okay.
They're making these.
And then because we know the Vulture is going to be in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
The Vulture?
Yes. That has been... Who is it? Colm
Fior?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's...
Well, we don't know if he'll become the Vulture. He's playing...
Okay, he's Toombs or whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah, but, I mean... But all the word now is that they're somehow setting up the Sinister Six, that's heretical if you don't have Doc Ock, because Doc Ock leads the fucking Sinister Six.
They have 2 more movies. They could put Doc Ock in there. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, but it's like... Shit's just getting even crazier.
Yes.
It feels like... because if they are doing Sinister Six, that assures that there will be one Spider-Man movie that has 6 fucking villains in it. Double the count from Spider-Man 3. If they do that, that would be fucking incredible. So that because that's always been the thing with superhero movies is like when you get too many villains, the thing falls apart. You do 6 villains, that's crazy. So
I saw Drew McWeeny from HitFix put it a really good way where he said, Sony, this is their biggest franchise, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And they don't have access to a larger Marvel universe.
So they're building their Spider-Man universe.
No, but well, instead of building a team of heroes like Avengers, just build a team of villains and market that.
Exactly.
And it's not a bad idea for a marketing standpoint.
But
I don't know if
it
it's a good
seems
creative.
like a terrible viewpoint from a movie standpoint.
Yeah, but
like,
we'll see.
I don't know how the fuck you would handle 6 villains in one movie. It would be just insane.
I'm just super interested, and I'm most interested if like Mark Webb and James Vanderbilt, the screenwriter on 1 and 2, and the other creative people have sat down and said, we know what 2 is, we know how it leads into 3, we know what 3 is, and now we know we want a 4, and that's why we're doing this. Or if they just state out these dates saying, we'll make them, we'll see if they work or not.
Yeah,
and
who knows?
I hope it's the former. It very well could be the latter.
Like with the exact dates makes it feel like it's. I mean, it's probably a little bit of a mix of the two, but it feels like it's a pretty heavy studio push thing. Like we're putting fucking dates out for these movies.
Well, and I mean, it came right on the heels of Disney announcing dates for new Marvel movies without even telling us what they are. So they're just trying to stake dates as soon as they can because they got 2 pieces of prime real estate. They got a really good weekend in either June or July, I forget which one, and then they got May 4th of 2018, and the first weekend in May for superhero movies has historically been the big one. I mean, that's the Avengers, that's Iron Man 3, those kinds of things. I mean, that date has set the 2 highest grossing opening weekends ever. So, although my big question is, are superhero movies, and Spider-Man in particular, going to be that big in 2018? That's a long way away.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably will still be like
Probably,
big
but
enough. Like then, like it depends on if Marvel falls, like the Marvel Studios things fall apart in some way, where it's like they make a really terrible Avengers 2 or something, and then like people start not seeing those movies as much.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I don't think interest will have waned enough to make a Spider-Man movie not something you'd want to do.
Right, and I think people liked Amazing Spider-Man 1 plenty enough to be excited about 2. I mean, I know you didn't. Yeah, that wasn't your favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I want to.
Right?
Yeah, like I mean, Spider-Man. I'm going to see anything Spider-Man related.
Yeah.
Other than the Broadway musical, but
maybe that's going to be Amazing Spider-Man 4 is the musical adaptation.
There we go.
That had Sinister Six in it. Did you know that?
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Yeah, so we may need to do another episode, like, just theorizing about what the fuck these new Spider-Man movies are.
Yeah.
Because, I just want a trailer for Amazing Spider-Man 2, because I just want to know what this movie looks like. Because I'm actually legitimately excited, but I'm excited in the way where this could be terrible, or it could be fucking great.
Who knows?
Yeah. 2 is where it usually, all comes into focus and gets great, so we'll see.
Yeah. Like, I wish with the Spider-Man movies they would do the things that Warner Brothers is doing with their movies where everyone is like, it's the Amazing Spider-Man, and then it's like, the Web Slinger and Wall Crawler, Webhead.
Well, that's the question. What are they going to call these sequels? Because
Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4.
I still don't think they're going to have numbers.
I think it's going to be... I mean, I guess because we haven't seen the trailer, so we haven't seen anything like super official on the title, but I feel like Amazing Spider-Man 2 is Amazing Spider-Man 2.
They're saying that, but that's... they also that's how you refer to things when they're in production and you don't have a title eked out. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen superhero movies with numbers on them. I mean, that's the Iron Man movies, and other than that, Marvel's moved away from that. They're doing I assume Avengers is going to be the Avengers subtitle for 2. I don't think that's going to have a 2 on it. And I think they will, and I can just assume Sony. They did the title differentiation from the original Sam Raimi series by calling this The Amazing Spider-Man. I don't think they're going to want to put a 2 on there because Spider-Man 2 is the most popular movie from that original trilogy. So
I don't think that I'm pretty sure it's just going to be The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Like, I don't...
There's no way we're going to get to 4 and they're going to call it The Amazing Spider-Man 4. That just doesn't happen anymore.
I would not be hugely surprised if that was the case. Like, I don't know. Like, if they call this one 2 and the next one 3, I don't think they're going to, like, slap a subtitle onto the 4th one all of a sudden. Amazing Spider-Man.
I really wouldn't be surprised if they're going to do, like, Spectacular Spider-Man and then something else Spider-Man and...
That would take too much comic book know-how. I think, like studios are not going to... Because that doesn't, like, create a really big brand like it's Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man. Like, I don't think that's going to sell really well because then... You're left with, like, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, Marvel Knight Spider-Man. Like, none of those titles are...
Superior Spider-Man, Sean.
Yeah. The Avenging Spider-Man.
They gotta get Doc Ock in here some way. What better way than to do the Superior Spider-Man arc?
Yeah. Fantastic. Spider-Man One More Day of the movie. What we've all been waiting for. But yeah, I think this podcast is done.
Okay.
I've had enough talking about superheroes for now. I want to... Like, after I watched Man of Steel, I came back here and I was like, I'm just going to read some Superman comics because it's like I want Superman. I don't want this bullshit. It's not I read Superman comics. That made me happy. So
I still like Man of Steel.
all right. Well, there you go. You like Man of Steel? I don't.
Yes. Agree to disagree. Next week, hopefully, we'll talk about something we both like.
If we end up talking about The Last of Us, I would be pretty surprised if you did not like The Last of Us. But that would be fun. That would be a fun experiment, like where if it flips where I'm really enthusiastic about something and then you really hate it.
I mean, I could just troll the shit out of you next week and just pretend I hated it, like not even play it.
I might end up killing you. Like
okay.
I would just put you in a sleeper hold and then just choke you out, and it's like, there we go. Or get a brick and just bash you over the head with it, or just like get a 2x4 and just like slam scissors into it and just like hit you and like fucking cut your carotid artery. Or just take a machete and just bash you in the face with it over and over and over again. It is a violent fucking game. Don't fuck with me when I'm thinking about that game.
And this has been a disturbing installment of WGTC Radio.